Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, now what we've all been waiting for, a special treat. First, a little background on this individual. I looked up some dirt last night on the computer. It's amazing what you can find on Google. Originally from Preston, Idaho, he lives in Boise with his wife Christy and family. Owner and general manager of Western Building Maintenance in Boise. Western Building Maintenance was established in 1962 and provides service in Washington, Oregon, Utah, and Idaho. It's a 1984 graduate of Boise State University, an avid hiker and runner and other outdoorsman and active person in many respects. He's been a Rotarian for 25 years and is also a Paul Harris Fellow. He resides from the Boise Metro Club, what I'd call his home club, I guess. Our District Governor, Bret Vaterlaus.
It's a great pleasure to be with you. You wouldn't know this, but because of how good I look right now, but this is the 42nd club I've been to, and I'm going to give the speech for the 42nd time, and I just hope that I don't fall asleep in the middle of it. I can already see a few of you falling asleep, and it might be good for you. I understand you get out at 2:30, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, what time do you get out, really? 1? I'm going to talk really fast. I want to talk to you a little bit about some experiences that I've had with Rotary in being prepared to become the district governor. 3 years ago, my club sponsored me and put me forth to be a nominee, and then you go through some processes of interviews, and somehow you get selected. The problem with that is I was in the process of that year of doing a personal experiment of seeing if I could say yes to everything for a full year. And that was that year, so I'm still doing that. But anyway, after you're put in as the district governor, you start through this training process. And so in the first year, I found myself in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And Albuquerque's a really interesting place. I mean, I got there on a Tuesday, I checked into the hotel, and I left on Saturday. And the only time that I got out was at 5 o'clock in the morning when my wife likes to run. And so I only know Albuquerque in the dark. It's a scary place. At 5 in the morning, there isn't anybody bad out. They're all sleeping by then. Well, and that's the place that I first met President Tanaka. You've all seen pictures of him, maybe read some of his articles. And pretty interesting man. He's not a very tall man. He makes me feel tall. For all of you that are over, how many's over 6 feet here? Could you raise your hands? I feel bad for you if you had to meet him. Because what you do is you shake hands for the Western civilization, and then you bow for his. And because he has a higher position than you, you have to bow lower than he does. And it paid to be short because I could get lower than the rest of you that are over that 6-foot mark. So I got to meet him, shake his hand. We've bowed together, met his wife. An interesting thing, all of the talks that he gave there, all of his speeches, he gave in English. But when you talked to him, he didn't understand a word you said. Okay? And I thought that was pretty admirable that he would memorize those talks and those words so that he could present those talks in English. That was pretty amazing for him to do that. All the rest of the time he had to have an interpreter. On the last evening there, I want to give you a little feel for him. On the last evening there, we had dinner. There's a dance floor like this. He and his wife are quite proper, and she was wearing a Japanese-style gown, and so he took her and they left, and everybody's like, good, we can let our hair down now. We've been working hard for a week, and we're going to start dancing, and they're all having a good time. And about 15 minutes later, President Tanaka shows back up. He walks right out in the middle of the floor, And I mean, he starts bebopping like he's a 14-year-old. And that goes on for about 45 minutes, and I keep reaching for my phone, making sure it's on in case I got to call 911, because I was getting pretty nervous about him out there. But the point I want to give you is he just wanted to be with the people. And I think if he could come to every club, he's the kind of man that would love to just come and be with you in your club. And I hope I can give you a little of that flavor, because he can't do that, but I think he would want to. I think he'd want to shake your hand and bow with you, just like he did with me. Well, a year later, then you go to some more training, and that's in Rockport, Texas. Has anybody been there? Do you know it looks just like Albuquerque? at 5 in the morning. And you check in at 2, and you get out on Tuesday, and you get out on Saturday, and you don't see the light of day on that trip either. During that trip, we really built a lot of friendships with the other district governors that are serving in the zone. We set up our own Facebook account so that we could communicate very quickly with one another, and really had a great time kind of bonding with these folks. And really didn't see the value of that until one of our district governors was down in Colorado when those fires were all going. And they were able to network into all the other district governors to try and get information and help for their communities there. And I thought that was a pretty neat opportunity for us to participate in. Well, finally, you go to San Diego for training. And you'd think that by now I'd be pretty smart, wouldn't you? Yeah, see, that's the way I felt too. I said, well, why have I got to go 3 times? In San Diego, what they do is they bring every district governor and their spouse or partner from all over the world. From every district comes there. And you go in there, and as it was mentioned, I was born in Preston. Has anybody been there? Has anybody seen Napoleon Dynamite? That's my cousin. Actually, that chicken ranch that he was carrying the chickens in, if you remember that. During my teenage years, that's my uncle's ranch, and I actually helped build that particular chicken coop. So if you'll watch very closely in the credits, it's key grip Bret Vaterlaus for building the chicken coop. Not really, but anyway, that was a good part of my life. Preston, Idaho. So here I am in San Diego, and I'm at this hotel. And I check in, and as I pull up to it, I look up, and there's 2 huge towers. They go 24 stories in the air, and it's all just hotel rooms. And they had another convention going on there the same time ours was, and I never even saw those people. So I don't know how big this was. But I went into the check-in desk, and I remember standing at the desk and looking that way, and I really couldn't tell where the desk ended. And I looked that way, and I couldn't tell where the desk ended. And it was full of people. And I was really, I'm sitting there thinking, this is a little out of my comfort zone. This is pretty big, and I started feeling a little small. Has anybody ever felt that way when you go somewhere and you're out of your league a little? And I'm kind of building up my courage, feeling pretty good, and then somebody walks up to somebody next to me that's dressed in some clothing from Africa and says, "Prince so-and-so, could you do this for me?" And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm from Preston, and this is Prince so-and-so, and he's the district governor of his district. And so I'm feeling that way, and I'm hurrying and checking in, and we run over and get on the elevator, and I'm thinking I can go up and regroup and get ready to face all this stuff. And so I get on the elevator, and when I get on, there's a man standing in the corner. And he's got a badge on. These badges are pretty cool. They all have a chip in them. And when you check into these meetings, they put a chip on you, and if they schedule your life for that week. And every meeting that you're supposed to be to, when you go to that meeting, they have a scanner that scans the chip to make sure you're there. Okay? If you're not there, they send you a bill for not attending the meeting. Okay? Now, where's our women? We got some women in here? I need a vote on if it's fair to all concerned. They gave my wife one of these chips. So not only am I paying if she doesn't go, but I'm also paying for whatever she's doing while she didn't go. Is that fair to all concerned?
Sure.
You think it is? Oh, man, I thought I might get a little sympathy on that. Well, my wife made it to all our meetings. Neither one of us got a penalty bill. But this man's standing on the elevator, and he's got that badge on, so I know he's a Rotarian. And so I struck up a conversation with him. Very quickly realized we don't speak the same language. And so finally, we're kind of like, yeah, how are you? And I mean, I didn't have a chance on his. He knew a little bit of English. And finally, I said, well, where are you from? And there was some hesitation. And then he looked at me, and I think he looked at me because he thought maybe I would judge him. But he said, I'm from Afghanistan. And so now here I am. I left this place where I thought I'd be safe on the elevator. Now I'm talking with somebody from Afghanistan. Have you ever thought about what we have in common with Afghanistan? I mean, what do you think of those planes and the troops and the... I didn't embarrass you. I didn't do that. But that's all I really knew about Afghanistan. And you can go through Afghanistan to get to some mountains that you can climb over there. They're pretty cool. But I didn't know anything about it. And that was a really funny feeling to just meet somebody in the world that I thought, I really don't know anything about where this guy lives. And then I thought, I wonder what it feels like for him to be here in the United States when he's seen a side of the United States that comes there, and just how it felt. And then I thought, well, I guess he'll feel however we associate, right? So throughout the week, I always tried to find him because that was a person that I could tell was needing somebody to shake his hand off and on through the week, and I probably needed the same thing from him, and we kind of became friends, although I'm not sure we said anything to each other that we understood. So that was kind of a unique little thing there. I'm not sure it would have impressed me much, but I was feeling kind of small when I got on that elevator. Well, later in the week, President Tanaka gets to a point where he's going to present the theme. And the theme and everything that goes with it is pretty important. Now, I joined Rotary the same year you did, Kevin, 1985. And I've been on the board for 24 years in my club. And so that means my wife's gone to almost every meeting that a district governor has come to. And after about the fourth one, she kind of pulled me aside and she says, do all district governors have bad taste? And I said, what are you talking about? She says, well, it's the jackets they wear. I mean, can you believe it? Goldenrod, bright red, green, plaid. You've seen them all wear those jackets, right? Well, the president selects a color of the jacket. So as I'm going down there, my wife's told me, she says, if it's any of those colors, you're not wearing it. So as we first stand up and he announces that it's going to be a navy blue jacket, my wife elbows me and she says, you can wear that one. So that's why I've got it on today. The next thing that happens is he presents the theme. And instantly, what you see is all of these people, smartphones come out, okay? And they're going to text this message to all the world. Service is going to go to all the world right there, okay? My wife and I are giggling because we're probably the youngest ones there, and there's all these folks with smartphones, and we're thinking, we hardly know how to use ours. What are they going to do with theirs, right? I think that it went out pieced through something or other, but I don't know. Anyway, everybody's excited. But here's the thought. 15 seconds, and Rotary can touch every part of the world in 15 seconds from that meeting. That's a pretty powerful thing to think about and be a part of when that happens. Now, I wasn't much a part of it because I sent a postcard instead of trying to text it. You got the postcard, didn't you?
Yes.
And because I didn't trust that typing in that room. This presentation is pretty cool, though. Everybody comes in there. They have about a 150-foot wide screen. They stream in. It's not as good as Kevin's stuff, but it's almost as good. Music, video, everything. It's pretty awesome. And so they give you that whole thing, and then it's time to go back to these meetings. And so we get in our group. There's 25 of us. We have to go to a room. They want us to talk about two subjects. First one is, what's your definition of peace? Second one is, how difficult will it be to implement this theme into your district? I look at the schedule and it's an hour and a half, and I'm thinking, boy, this is going to be a big waste of time. I mean, we know what peace is, and peace through service isn't that hard to tell you about, is it? So that's my mindset. So I sit down, and they start going around the room asking one by one, what's your definition of peace? And I want to show you this just so you can get a feel for this. Can you give me your definition of peace, just right off the top of your head?
Tranquility.
Tranquility. How about you? Tranquility. Going in a good direction.
Safety.
Safety. Security. What I'll tell you is every developed country talked about things as peace as an absence of conflict or an absence of war. The safety, the security, those kinds of things. All of the developing countries talked about having clean water to drink, food to eat, and shelter. They never once talked about conflict. And I thought that was pretty amazing because that's a real separate, it's a contrast that's very far apart. And then I thought, look at us in our country. And I don't mean this politically, I just think about how we've been raised. We think that peace is created by creating an absence of conflict in general from our country. And so there I sat with somebody telling me that they looked at peace completely different. And I thought, that's a real changing thing in my life. And so we got through with that. That was about a half an hour. I'm a quick learner. They asked the next question, and I thought, that's going to be a big waste of time. How hard is it to put it in, right? My family name, Vaterlaus, if you take that back, it would be Vaterlaus in the old land, and it comes from Switzerland. And there's a guy from Austria just next door to me over there, and he's in there, and they come to him and they ask a question, and he does this. This is exactly how he does it. Stands up, buttons his shirt, puts his chair in, he looks at everybody, he says, it won't be hard at all. I just go home, I tell them, and they do it. And he sat back down, and I thought, that's what I was going to do, you know? And then when I saw how everybody responded to it, I says, that's probably not what I'm going to do. Well, 3 people later, they ask another man the question, how difficult will this be to implement in your district? He said, it will be the most difficult thing I have ever done. Instantly, everyone is saying, it's peace through service. Did you get the memo kind of thing? It's peace through service. And it's a big hubbub. They think that this guy doesn't understand the theme. The moderator finally gets everybody settled down and says, why is it going to be the hardest thing? And he said, well, my district includes Israel and every little country around it. Okay? Now guess what? Nobody's trying to help him now. I mean, we've all done that, tried it, we're still trying it, and no one succeeded, right? Then he makes another statement. Now think about this in terms of your plans to go to district conference this year, okay? I know all of you are planning on going. This is just to help you feel better about it, okay? He says, we don't even have a place that is safe enough for us to hold a district conference to invite our Rotarians together. Now think about that. In our world of Rotary, did you ever think that that place existed? I definitely did not. And so all of a sudden, it's dead quiet in the room. Then he makes another statement. And this one was the one that had the most impact. He says, and pay attention to the specific word. He said, but we have negotiated a place where we can bring our interactors and our rotaractors together once a year so that we can instruct them together. Now think about what this man just said. In all humility, he stood and said it was going to be the hardest thing he ever did. In reality, he's the only person that already had it done. See? You take those kids, they're going to be the leaders of their peers. And as they are the leaders of their peers, 25 years from now, they'll be the social, the economic, the religious. They'll be the leaders of all the things in those countries. And who will be their friends? The people that were interactors and rotaractors with them. That man, in all humility, didn't know what he had done. And then I thought, this is going to be the hardest thing that I've ever done. How do I do something that has an impact like that? Okay? So now I've shared that with you. You're all responsible for that too. Does it feel good? I hope it does, because here's what I've learned. Each of you, by sitting in your chair today, and by carrying that badge, and by saying that you're a Rotarian, you made it possible for those things to happen over there. Because if Rotary didn't exist here, it definitely would not exist there. And so your role as a Rotarian, day in and day out, has a great influence on what's happening in the world, because it keeps Rotary every place in the world. That's really important for you to realize. And I never realized it until I just left where we are right here and experienced these things with these other people. It's really important that you are Rotarians. It's important that we have a new Rotarian and that we continue to get more new Rotarians. Let me drive that home just a little bit. 1905, 4 men decided to sit around a table and use their lunch hour to do something more positive than just eat. Okay? Let me tell you what I think they were talking about. One turned to the other and says, 2012, we'll be about this close to eradicating polio if we can get this thing going. The other one says, I can beat that. 2012, we'll have interactors and rotaractors meeting in Israel. Well, obviously they weren't talking about that, were they? Do you know what their first project was? Anyone know? Public restrooms for Chicago. Pretty glamorous. I like that because I have a cleaning company. That just means there's more work out there for me. But that's what was on their mind. How would they ever have known what Rotary would be doing in the world today? You see that? Now what I want to show you is I have no way of knowing that there won't be 4 people sitting in this club around one of these tables that's not going to come up with something that would change the world given enough time. Because that was just 4 people in some obscure place. Why can't it be here? I loved giving this talk in Rigby because I said, has anything ever come out of Rigby that's changed the world? TV was invented in Rigby, Idaho, right? They didn't really remember that. They take that for granted. That's probably one of the biggest things that's ever changed the world, to see and hear at the same time and not be there. Huge. Came out of Rigby, Idaho. It's really important to be a Rotarian. Let me close with this thought for you. It's not service above self that makes the Rotarian. It's the Rotarian that practices service above self. It's not the motto itself, it's the living of the motto. It's not the 4-way test that makes everybody a better person. It's the living of the 4-way test. It always is going to take the individual. Rotary will never be bigger than you. Each one of you. It will never be bigger than you. And that's an important concept, I think, that we need to grab. So to finish with that, what I've learned in going all the way out into the world is nobody ever thanks you enough. They don't thank you for being here steadily every day, every project, years, 38 years and 27 years, and many of you more than that. I don't know how many years were. 34. I mean, people that stay in Rotary and participate and keep the ideal of Rotary alive. Thank you. And that's what I've learned. Thanks for having me.